Greetings, dear suckers. My name's Joe Bob, and I'm very peeved. And welcome to False GamerGater. That's right, at long last, we are returning to SigmaSuccour's False series. Well, I say series. It's hard to really say if there's any sort of continuity between them. Some of them it kinda seems, and some of them I'm not so certain. And the fact that all of his games seem to be part of this series just muddies the water further, but that doesn't matter. What matters is the game itself, I suppose. And according to the page on this is a game about a woman who infiltrates a major game studio as a re-education officer to find her missing husband, who is a developer there, learn about the corruption and anti-gamer sentiments plaguing the studio, and free it from the mind virus that infects it. Sounds good to me. Apparently this game came out a few months ago. I only noticed it about a month ago, and I was going to play it then, and then, well, shit happened. What can you do? But we're playing it now. Recall a moment from memory? Excuse me? Oh, okay, there's an actual... Whoa, this is a trippy menu. Okay, I don't know why we started at continue. Now who is this lovely lass? I mean, it's been a while, but I don't recall her being any of the recurring characters. Attention staff. You'll notice an unfamiliar face roaming about the office today. That's the re-education officer. Because of course, that's something every game studio needs. Really, we need one in every single home. Otherwise, how could we possibly ever have any kind of societal stability? It's just common sense. For her first day, she'll be looking around. Please be sure to introduce yourself and share the work that you do as openly as possible. In other words, close all of your porn tabs. Thank you. And I understand that you're all going through a tough time right now with what's been going on. So remember, you all matter. And the work you do at Walk Entertainment Studios is special. Walk Entertainment Studios? Or is that an O? Kinda. No. It doesn't look like the O's. But Walk Entertainment Studios. That's an odd name. Maybe it's a reference to something, but if it is, I have no idea what it is. So be proud and keep walking. That sounds like you're encouraging them to put in the minimum effort. Hey, I'll drink to that. Adequacy ho. You all matter? To whom? For doing what? To no one. For doing nothing. It doesn't actually mean anything, it's just a platitude. That and $100 will get you a cup of coffee. So that's the crowd I'm dealing with here. Let's blend in and play along, till I find out where he is. WASD or arrow keys to move, Z or enter key to interact, X or escape key to open menu. Pretty standard stuff. Oh, you didn't mention press shift to zoom. Hot damn. Yeah, you know what? Fuck walking. Why walk when you can zoom? Music on, music off? Sure. Let's have some mood music. I'm very thirsty, but not for water. down, girl. Sensitivity reader. What's my best NPC voice? Starting out in the games industry, no one took my suggestions seriously. Whenever I would tell them to remove offensive or hateful content, or tell them to change unrealistic character designs. Imagine that. So I started complaining to their marketing team, terrifying them on the PR nightmare they'll have to deal with if game studios don't take my advice. Funny how they never had a PR nightmare about that before people like you started bothering them. And funny how they've been having a PR nightmare ever since people like you have been bothering them. You know, after making all those changes that you suggested, but never mind that. After a while, not only did the studio start obeying and respecting me more, they started consulting me from the very start for every story beat written and every character design drawn. This is the start of a new era of video games, safer and more inclusive video games. But I don't want to be safe in my own video games. Safety is boring. With safety comes no struggle, and with no struggle comes no satisfaction. Old gamers are screeching, saying they won't buy our games. I say, good. Them being offended means I'm doing my job right. Isn't that funny? Them being offended means you're doing your job right. Them doing exactly what you just proudly proclaimed that you were doing means that you're in the right and they're in the wrong. Isn't it funny how that works? So sensitivity readers don't actually remove offense. They just offend a different group of people? Well put. I'm curious about something. Maybe I'll go back and ask her a question. That's SigmaSuccour's way of telling you, talk to everyone more than once. Makes sense. I've played some games before that were really annoying about putting that sort of thing in, but making it really inconsistent, and also not telling you that it's going to happen. Ugh. Kind of annoying. Not a huge deal, I admit, but every little bit counts. I'm curious, what advice would you give to someone starting out? That everything is problematic, that everything is hateful, and you have to point it all out. Ha ha ha. Nice Anita Sarkeesian quote. Well, slightly paraphrased quote, but never mind. It gets the gist. Man, Anita Sarkeesian, I haven't thought about her in so long. And you know what? I'd be glad about that if she hadn't been replaced by 100 more just like her. Then when one of those things stick with someone, that's your potential client. They hire you, and you patch that problematic thing up. Then you add that problematic thing to your portfolio, and go to other game studios on why they should fix that problematic thing too. Just as that other studio did. Yes, the spam email grifters method. Adapted for our modern times. They've done studies, you know? 60% of the time, it works every time. I know, that doesn't make sense, but neither does the world we live in. If they don't hire you, talk about it publicly. Promote the studio that did hire you to fix it, while dragging the studio that didn't. Dragging the studio. I'm not familiar with that turn of phrase, but I can guess what it means. People need to know that you made them aware of the problematic content in their game, and they still didn't hire you, which means they intentionally want to cause harm by including hateful content. Chances are, if you go too far with dragging them, and you should, they won't hire you, and instead they'll hire a different sensitivity reader. And that's why you stay close to your colleagues, because we get each other jobs this way. Wow, that was very clear and thorough. Thank you. You really, yeah. You've really thought this out. It actually reminds me a lot of... It actually harkens back to something even older with the cartels, kind of. But never mind that. It's a bloody mafia. Yeah, that's exactly, that's what I was just saying. Anything else? Remember, everything is problematic, everything is hateful, and you have to point it all out. I think everything should be one word there, actually. I don't know if 2 words is actually grammatically incorrect, but 1 word is more common. Then again, perhaps 1 word is for the commoners. Diversity officer. Since players want to see themselves in their video games, do they? I made an algorithm that randomly spreads out diverse human characteristics in the characters we make. So our games can have characters of every shape, size, color, and sexual preference, and every player feels included. Technically speaking, that could still produce all white, heterosexual men, because of the nature of randomness. Which would be funny, I admit. But we all know that wouldn't actually see print. The less a type of character has been seen in video games media, the higher priority they have to be included. And the type of characters we have seen often in video games, we mostly leave those out. We mostly just leave those out. Ah yes, that's very fair and equitable of you. Also kind of harkens back to Chesterton's fence, in a way, but never mind. The fair, idealized, pretty? Yuck! No one wants to see that. But I thought you were all about fairness! Not to mention utopianism, which is a form of idealism. One could say it's idealism taken to extremes. They suit better as villains, put there just to be beaten and murdered. Murdered? If you're writing your story correctly, your villain's death should never be qualifying as murder. But never mind that. I love murdering them. In video games, I mean. Oh yeah, sure. I love just blowing them to smithereens with mail bombs, gassing them with chemical weapons, crashing planes into their buildings in Minecraft. Actually, I should go do that right now. It'll help calm my nerves. In Minecraft. Huh. So you're making everyone feel included. Except one group? One group? Don't be silly. It's a lot more than one. It's every group. The moment they aren't seen as towing the party line. In the end, they're not really including anyone, just these group identities. But people are not groups, they are individuals. So in the end, everyone is excluded. Or something along those lines, anyway. More diversity and inclusion makes the game better. If you don't intentionally include, you unintentionally exclude. Oh, I thought the diversity officer was going to say, if you don't intentionally include, you intentionally exclude. But perhaps that would be too blunt, even for a diversity officer. Because these people love weasel phrases and weasel words. And when intentionality for this starts making you frustrated, then you play a video game about the exciting future where it all leads. Take a look at my PC. You look like the right tone to enjoy it. I beg your pardon? You fucking what, mate? Okay then. All you need is love. And by love, we mean love of the party. And love of the group identity, not love of those icky individuals. That would be silly. A massive harassment campaign has been launched by gamers due to the spread of disinformation and conspiracy theories that their games are being intentionally ruined. Listen to the news or ignore it. Well, if I wasn't playing a game here, I'd be tempted to ignore it, but let's listen to it. Why not? Ruined by a cabal of consultants who threatened their way into the industry by weaponizing social media outrage. Wow, that doesn't sound like them at all. And that they now use their influence to prioritize elements in video games that suck the fun and escapism out of them. Well, the thing that started to happen is, they just started saying it publicly in front of cameras. But nothing can be further from the truth. Yeah, I mean, that is really far from the truth. So far that it wraps back around. Like a... Was that overflow? Was that a stack overflow or underflow? I keep mixing those two up. A harassment campaign? Is that why this lot seems on edge? It's afraid. Games localizer. And by localizer, we mean localizing to one particular part of California. A lot of the content I have to translate and localize is either shit, or coming from cultures that are morally backwards. That should be one sentence, and that period should be a comma. Also, if it's so shit, why are you localizing it in the first place? If it's so terrible, why not just not bother? Dingus. So my job involves a lot of rewriting to make it fit modern sensibilities. Ah yes, modern sensibilities. From the modern audience. This incredible race of bozos allegedly waiting in the wings. We have dismissed this claim. And to actually make it good, yeah, you should quarantine that word in apostrophes. Gamers don't understand this, and complain how the translation is too different from the original. Imagine that. Imagine gamers who are interested in the thing that you are localizing being interested in the game that you are localizing. Who could have possibly predicted this state of affairs? How it's censorship and how it's not the original author's intent. This is finally starting to change, though. Since the market here is so big, overseas game studios are starting to consult us localizers from the start, and have less problematic content in their games from the get-go. Our culture is more forward-thinking and progressive, so it's only natural they alter their games to match our higher moral standings. Ah yes, those poor, backwards, idiot, retarded Orientals. Us glorious saviors have to protect them from their own stupidity and backwardsness. Otherwise, they'd go back to eating dogs. This is just manifest destiny adapted to the modern era, isn't it? The only people left complaining then will be gamers with regressive morals that we shouldn't serve anyways. Good luck with that. So, wait. Even if I learn the source language, it doesn't matter anymore. Oh, I don't know about that. Their reach exceeds their grasp. I don't even know the language I'm translating from. Okay then. Then you aren't fucking translating then. News piece. We are noticing a rising demand for AI translation over human localization. Wow, I wonder why that could possibly be. Man. Remember the days when machine translations were seen as shoddy, inferior products? Those were the days. Then again, it's not all bad. Part of it's just machine translations becoming better. Anyway, it's not, they've never actually been that bad inherently, as long as the person doing it is familiar with the source material and familiar enough with the translations software to correct for a lot of the rookie mistakes. Machine translations can actually be perfectly fine. It's just that up till now, proper translations have always been, well, generally been far superior because, well, partly it's just due to the upfront cost of actually doing those, leading to them being seen as things worth putting more effort into. Because, well, as Robert Heinlein put it, something given has no value. I wouldn't go that far, of course. People can find value in all sorts of things, but something having a cost to entry can very easily give it its own inherent value. And so quite a bit of the whole thing of machine translations being shoddy, inferior products is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But maybe that's changing. I don't know. Some text in a foreign language. Literal translation. You keep talking to me like we're on equal terms, but I'm a second year. You have to address a superior more politely. Shut up. Localized translation. Whoa, cut the brakes, Arthur Fonzarelli. You gotta stick up your ass, or are you one of those dumbass Gamergate creep shows? Wow. Not only do they shove in a Gamergate reference and all that, which, I mean, first of all, shoving in shitty pop culture references has been an issue with shoddy translations for a long time, and has almost never been looked on kindly. But also, if I'm looking at this correctly, it sounds like it's communicating the exact opposite of what the original was saying. Because it's saying, talk about having a stick up your ass, whereas the original was saying something about being formal enough when talking to your betters. Well, or something along those lines anyway. Some text in a foreign language. Literal translation. Everyone was always saying something to me, so I tried toning down the exposure. With closing. How is it? Localized translation. Oh, those pesky patriarchal societal demands were getting on my nerves, so I changed clothes. Oh, that one I actually do recognize. I don't remember what it was from, though. It was something about a dragon. I don't know. I despise all that crap where people say, like, oh, this character's a dragon, but it's obviously just a conventionally attractive woman with a couple of vaguely draconic body features. And honestly, looking at it, didn't even look very draconic. But never mind, that's a tangent. My issues with anime tropes are fairly irrelevant to the themes of this game. A checklist from Sensitivity Reading. Are you playing into gender norms and stereotypes? Remove them. Okay. Are women in your script secondary to men, relegated to supportive roles, and asking men for help? Make them equal and independent. And by equal, we mean better than them in every way, of course. Except a couple of minor and completely irrelevant flaws, of course, thrown in just to say that the character isn't a Mary Sue, obviously. Even though that's one of the classic symptoms of being a Mary Sue, of course. Also, equal to whom? Equal to the men who are main characters? Or equal to the men who are secondary characters that they already have roughly equal billing to? Or equal to the men that are background characters that have far less roles and maybe only are there to be saved by the heroes or die horribly to the villains. But of course, if a woman were to have that happen to her, well, that would be fridging. That's terribly misogynistic and racist. Don't ask me how it's racist. It doesn't really matter. Are you writing your men as stoic and reserved? Make them vulnerable. Have them express their feelings more often. Are you writing your women as vulnerable and expressing their feelings often? Make them stoic and reserved. Are you using words or slurs that were historically used to dismiss the struggles of a group of people being oppressed at the time? Replace them. Is that right? Well, better remove the word villain then. That was historically used to dismiss the struggles of the peasantry. Better remove the word imbecile. Was it imbecile? One of those words, like imbecile, moron, idiot, maybe all of them even, were used to dismiss the struggles of stupid people who have always been oppressed, even if sometimes just by themselves. If the antagonist/enemy belongs to a historically oppressed class of people, does the protagonist ever resort to violence against them? Make the protagonist compassionate and understanding towards their struggles. Oh yes, that's great. Because of course, if a person has been oppressed, then obviously everything they possibly do, regardless of whether it's connected to their oppression, is of course entirely sympathetic. You know, a black, lesbian, transsexual, Muslim, sorry. Jews of course have, as of lately, always been the oppressors. So of course, a black, lesbian, transsexual Muslim, then of course, if that person decides to annihilate the entire universe because that person is really upset that someone stole the person's sweet roll, then obviously that's perfectly understandable, and you should never stand against it. You should just lay down and let yourself die. Obviously. It's the moral thing to do. Is your writing catering to a privileged class of people? Remind them about their privilege over others. That's right. You go after those terrible, oppressive, homeless white men. Remind them that they are privileged over all of those rich black people. And they can never possibly make up for it. Do your characters express admiration or preference for conventional beauty? Have them instead express a desire for wanting something different, something unconventional. I mean, I fail to see why that has to be an either-or thing. I know a lot of people who are into some unconventional things. I can't think of one of them who isn't appreciative of beautiful things. My brain cells just committed seppuku. Yep. I'm about ready to commit Sudoku myself. Hey, no peeking. The dialogues and characters are utter garbage. So plot twists and subverting expectations is all I have going for my scripts. If that leaks, the whole narrative blows. It already does. And it'll cost us too many sales. So I have to be pretty protective about my scripts. Ah, damn it. I was hoping I could sneak a peek while she was looking the other way. Ah, yes. Just remember, Plot twists and subversions of expectations are all well and good, but you have to remember the core, the primary rule when it comes to subversions. And that is that when you pull the rug from underneath a person and reveal that things weren't as they seemed, whatever new reality they find themselves in has to be at least as good and satisfying as the original, preferably better. Now, this is of course a fine line to walk because if you're not putting your A game into the surface level story, that can wind up turning people off itself. And this is why you have to be a pretty damn good writer to actually pull off satisfying twists and subversions. Well, one of the reasons, of course. What I'm getting at here is that you can't just subvert someone's expectations, you have to also exceed them. Someone who expects to see a movie would certainly have their expectations real fucking subverted if the screen was just blank for an hour or two. But that wouldn't be a good fucking twist, now would it? And anyone can see that. Violence in games is violence in real life. An idea I thought only old people, who never played video games, believed. Then I joined this industry, and discovered that everyone here involved with making games believes the exact same. That should you write or show anything harmful in a video game, then that's equal to you doing it or supporting that thing in real life. Yup, time is a flat fucking circle. Because people here believe this nonsense. Anything I write has to go through an offense check or sensitivity reading. Well, I'm glad you at least recognize that it's nonsense. Followed by a humiliation ritual about how bad of a person I am for thinking about wrong things, otherwise known as wrongthink. But that would of course be too blatant of a way to refer to it. So of course they just very slightly change it to make it not obviously twig people's 1984 meter. Well, actually it still does, but it gives them plausible deniability with a certain kind of stupid person. There's only so much of these struggle sessions you can take before they fire you, or you lose your mind and quit. So I started intentionally writing bad, bland, and inconsistent dialogues and narratives, and my writing started passing their checks. This is what the industry demands. So why should I care? I get to write lazily, and it still pays me well at the end. I guess that's a kinda silver lining for you at least. If garbage is what they're paying you for, then it's garbage that they'll get. And I suppose taking their money and giving them garbage in return is kind of a form of passive resistance. Hey, we can't expect everyone to get up and throw their lives away to take a stand for what is right and all that. That's what a hero does, and there's nothing inherently wrong with not being a hero, despite what some people might claim. But then, is it really silver, or just quicksilver? And you know what happened to the Hatters? I started to find joy. It's hilarious, actually, to see game studios work for years to bring my dog water stories to life. Yeah, they're a sort of Kafka-esque comedy to it. I could feel sad for some of them, like the voice actors who have to speak and record my cringe dialogues. But I prefer to just laugh at them. Well, I guess there's always going to be some people who fiddle as Rome burns. I like this one. Yeah? Fair enough. We all do what we need to get through and all that. Violence in games is violence in real life. An idea I thought only old people who never played video games believed. Maybe these people don't play video games. Mayhap. A government-funded organization, Play This, which does research on a link between extremist behavior and gaming, has made an announcement in light of the recent events. That should be one sentence, and that should be a comma. Calling the massive harassment campaign as GamerGate 2. Boy, GamerGate just lives rent-free in their heads, doesn't it? And urging every developer of the games industry to speak out against the terrorist gamers. It's funny how terrorism has become such a nasty word. I mean, it's seen as such a terrible, terrible thing. Worse than so much. Worse than political corruption. Worse than war crimes. Worse than war itself, even. And yet, what is a terrorist? Well, someone who incites terror, I suppose. More to the point, someone who uses terror as a way of achieving political aims. Well, but then that would include a lot more people than they would have you believe it does, now wouldn't it? Terror is big business, isn't it? And of course, rioters killing and looting and destroying, well, that's fiery but mostly peaceful protests, isn't it? But a bunch of bozos on the internet decrying shitty practices, maybe doing a bit of harassment as a treat, well, that's something vile and evil. Does it actually qualify as terrorism? Well, does the question actually matter? Because what it is, because what label it fits, why should that matter? It shouldn't. It doesn't. Unless, of course, you are attempting to sneak in extra definitions. I.e., you are saying like, oh, they are a terrorist because of this, that, and the other. And so, therefore, they are also these other things because they are a terrorist, even though you haven't established that. You have only established that they are this, that, and the other. Hence, bothering by definition is either a obfuscation of what you're actually talking about for shorthand purposes, or an intentional obfuscation so that you can sneak in extra details without having to prove them. What was it that Vera Vasilich said upon shooting Governor Trepov in the buttocks and submitting herself into police custody? Put that in your pipe and smoke it. I quote, "For those who stay silent, we see you as compliant with the terrorist gamers." That second comma shouldn't be there. Well, actually, maybe the person he's quoting, I mean, it is internet discourse after all. I wouldn't be surprised. Terrorist gamers? What? Quite so. And silence is compliance, huh? Well, good to know I'm officially a terrorist for not denouncing Al-Shabaab. There's a lot of uproar by gamers on the internet these past few days. Why is that in apostrophes? What, are they not real gamers? Just like all those failed communist states aren't real communists. I just can't take any of them seriously. You know, I believe you. I'll take your word for it. I genuinely believe that you are incapable of that. They have no idea or nuance about our work here, or how games are made. Oh yeah, of course, that's perfectly reasonable. Just like how if a waiter serves me uncooked food, well, I can't complain. I have no idea or nuance about his work in the kitchen, or how food is made. Well, okay, I'm a bad example. I do actually have... Never mind. You get my point. What they're complaining about as forced is natural. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That explains why you had such an uphill battle forcing it into all these game companies. Why you had to employ mafia-like tactics to actually push it through. That's how the natural world works. What they are pointing out as bad is good. What they see as ugly is beautiful. It's just not for them. Wow, there is an astonishing amount that I could pick apart there. From the cultish tactics to the Mott and Bailey, oh, it's just not for you defense, to the inversion of morality. How wretched. In one hand, they give you this spiel about how it's not for you, while with the other hand, they shove it down your throat, while shouting about how evil you are if you don't mindlessly consume it constantly. And of course, anything that isn't for them is of course evil and terrible and awful, because everything should be for everyone except you. And they don't even see that they're arguing themselves into circles. If you don't like it, don't buy it. Don't worry, they won't. And stop being a whiny baby about it online, thinking the industry is going to change for you. The video games industry has served these gamers and their needs for long enough that when a new generation comes along and gives them something different, something more diverse, they start crying about it. Like whiny little babies. Every major game studio is on the same page as me. So what are these gamers going to do? Stop buying every new major game that comes out? Of course not. These poor babies simply can't help themselves. They still buy the game, and then end up whining about it. And so we stay the course. Give them some of what they want, and inject it with things they think they don't want, and slowly they'll begin to like it. Well, so much for no means no. The industry isn't the one that has to change, it's the gamers that need to. Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong. Their whining and crying is a sign that change is happening in them. Now that's cope. Why is everyone here a control freak? And not everyone. Some people have simply given up control. Give them some of what they want, and inject it with things they think they don't want, and slowly make them like that stuff. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them. Also, gotta love the projection there. They're such whiny little babies. Now, excuse me as I whine incessantly to these game industry people to cater to me exclusively, rather than just making good fucking games that can be enjoyed by anyone who likes good fucking games. Okay, this is Joe Bob from the future. I didn't realize how long this was getting until I actually looked at the recording afterward, but the game page said it was like, oh, 25 to 60 minutes of playtime. And, well, I'm currently looking at well over 3 hours of recorded footage, so yeah, for my own sanity, I'm going to cut that into shorter videos. So, until next chunk, I have been Joe Bob, and I'm very peeved. And remember, dislike the video, unsubscribe if you're for some reason subscribed, and leave a nasty comment in the comment section down below. Fuck you all so much for watching, and so long, suckers.
You're gonna be okay, kid.